Hello guys, good afternoon. My name is Raul Figueroa Torres. I am one of your teachers of PET, and today we're going to be developing the pages 120 to 121. The unit is 10B and the topic is the man who mastered time. So let's start. We are going to start with the warm-up, guys, but in order to start with the warm-up, we have to read this part to understand it and to start the topic and the pages of the book. So I'm going to read this with you. Vocabulary building expressions with time. Read about frequent words in English. Which of the expressions with time do you already use? The most frequent words in English. English has thousands of words, but some are much more frequent than others. In fact, the 700 most frequent words make up about 70% of all the English you hear and read. However, common words combine with others to create expressions with new meanings, so it's important to learn them. Here are some expressions with the word time, the 55th most common word. The 55th most common word is time and times. It doesn't matter if it has an S or maybe, for example, ing. It doesn't matter. It's just one word, time. Okay. So this is the 55th word that is most common on the world in English, and it has different expressions that we can use for different sentences. For example, 3, 4, 5 times, a long time, on time, a full-time job, all the time, once upon a time, a great time, in my space time, is my spare time, I'm sorry, and find the time. Each one of these means something different, so it's an example that a word can repeat itself many times, but it can also mean a lot of things. So let's go to the warm-up, guys. We have a warm-up. We have to think, well, you guys have to think about 10 common words that you think are the most used on English. For example, we saw time. You have to think of 10. Think about 10 words that you think are the most common on English. Write them on on your notebook. Okay, I'm gonna pause this video and then we will continue to explain you the next step. Okay, guys, now we are continuing. You have already written 10 words in your notebook that you think are the most common English words used nowadays. And well, the activity is that I'm going to show you 100 words that are the most common. This image is downloaded from the internet and are the words that people use them in the majority of the time to use English. So we're gonna check it. These are the 100 most used words in English, and the next step that you have to do, guys, is check if one of check the words that you wrote on your notebook and see if you can find them here. If you wrote one of the words from here, you have to put a little mark, and that will be the grading that you have in this activity of warm-up. So for example, if you have 10 marks because the 10 words that you wrote in your notebook are here, you have a perfect scoring. But if you have just 3 or 2 of these words, don't matter. It's just an activity. It's an activity, and this will allow you to know and to identify all the words that are mostly used in English. Okay, so now check the ones that you marked. If you have, for example, you wrote the in your 10 words, you have to look on the internet for different expressions that uses the. Okay, so I'm gonna make 2 examples. I'm gonna show you. Okay, guys, so now I have the example. The best is one expression. The uses the expression on these examples. The best, Messi is the best player of soccer. The worst, the worst is the bad. Yeah, the worst. Maybe a soccer player that is the worst. I don't know one, but maybe the worst um, food for me is moronga. I don't like moronga, so that's the worst food. So let's continue. So as I did these two examples for the, you have to do just one example or two examples depending for the words that you found or that you wrote on your notebook and you found them here. So that would be the activity for warm up. Okay, guys, so let's move to the second part. It says, work in pairs, find expressions with time in these sentences and check whether you know their meaning. Use a dictionary if necessary. We can work on pairs because we are in our homes, so we're going to do this by ourselves. We are going to read each one of these sentences and we have to find an expressions with time. Okay, guys, so I'm gonna pause the video and then you are going to underline the expression of time, and then we are going to check the correct ones. Don't worry if you don't have them correct. We are just making this exercise to identify the expressions at, at a first time. Then we will check the correct ones. Okay, guys? So I'm going to pause the video and I'll see you on the part where we check them. Okay, guys, now at this point you already underlined the expressions of time on this sentence, so I'm going to read them and then we're going to check the correct answer. Number one, his designs were years ahead of their time. Even now, some of them seem advanced. Number two, I get strange messages from my brother from time to time. Does he send them to you sometimes too? Number three, I hope the plan takes off on time. The plane, I'm sorry. I hope the plane takes off on time. I don't want to have to wait at the airport for hours. Number four, if we don't leave now, we won't get there early enough. I want to get there in time for the start of the show. Number five, in the past, life at sea was extremely dangerous. At one time, sailors would be lucky to live beyond 40 years old. Number six, while we waited, we passed the time playing cards. Number seven, it's my birthday in 2 days' time. Number eight, it's time to find out who this year's winner is. So now we're gonna check the correct answers. And we have here underlined the correct answers. Ahead of their time, from time to time, on time, in time, at one time, past the time, in 2 days' time, and it's time. So if you have any doubts with the expressions, I'm going to give you an explanation of each one on this part. We have number one, ahead of their time. Ahead of their time, an example could be maybe the movie of Star Wars, where they are ahead of their time because they are thinking of the future and they are thinking of of life on other planets, and it's ahead of their time and of our time because that doesn't exist, or maybe it's not um, we are in the past and they are talking about the future, right? So that would be an example of ahead of their time. From time to time, this would be an expression when we do something, but not every time, not all the time. For example, I like going to the cinema. I like going to watch a movie to the cinema from time to time. Why from time to time? Because I don't go to the cinema every day. I go one weekend. One weekend I go to another place, maybe play bowling or other things, but I don't do that activity every time. So it's from time to time. On time, number three on time is an expression of something that is supposed to happen. For example, um, when we want to travel to another country and we have a ticket, and the ticket says the hour and the date that the plane will fly. So we have to go on time to that flight in order to get to the other country. And the difference from in time is when maybe we don't have arranged a time or a date, but we go to that place, and it has not it hasn't started the activity. For example, it could be a date. If you go on a date and you get early, you are in time. So you are not late, you are in time, but you were not forced to get there early. So that would be the difference. At one time, at one time has two meanings. The first one would be this example. In the past, at one time, you could buy milk directly from the farmer. Now you can't because it may be dangerous because it is not processed, and it may have some bacteria. That would be an example. Another example would be at one time, no, I decided to do three things at one time, but I didn't do them correctly, the three of them. So that would be two examples at one time. The translation in Spanish would be a la vez, uno a la vez, o a la vez. So let's go to the number six, pass the time. In number six, we have pass the time. It's when we do something in order to make the time pass quicker. For example, while we waited, we passed the time playing cards. While we waited maybe for another person, while we waited for the flight or anything, we had to play cards in order to pass the time. That would be the example for number six. Number seven, in 2 days' time. So in the example number seven, it's my birthday in 2 days' time. In 2 days, this will happen in 2 days. For example, it's my birthday in 2 days' time. My birthday will be developed 2 days ahead. For example, if today is um, Saturday, my birthday will be on Monday, 2 days ahead from now. And number eight, it's time to find out who this year's winner is. It's time. It's the time. Right now is the time to find out who this year's winner is. Another example would be, it's time to do homework because it's too late. Another example, it's time to eat lunch because it's lunchtime. So it refers to right now. It's time. We have to do this. Okay, guys, so now we move to the next part is number three, work in pairs. We can work in pairs, so we are going to work by ourselves. Okay, use expressions from activity two, the one that we previously did, did from activity two to write 5 sentences that you think are true about your partner. Read your sentence to your partner where your sentence is true. We are not working with partners, so we are gonna use the expressions for ourselves. Here are two examples. Letter A, you don't like competitive sports, but you go running from time to time. That's not true. I play tennis. That's competitive. That would be the answer. Letter B is the answer, and this is the example. Because we cannot work on pairs, you have to make examples, just 3 examples of yourself. Okay, I'm gonna show you 3 examples of me, and then that way you won't get confused. Okay. Okay, guys, so my examples would be these. I made 2 examples. From time to time, from time to time, I like to watch romantic movies. I don't do it every day, but from one to time, enjoy doing it. The other example is the other day, The other example is the other day I passed the time watching a chef's program. I really didn't know what to do that day because I was waiting for match, uh, a soccer match from Cruz Azul and America. So I didn't know what to do. So I started moving on the control, and then I find myself with Hell's Kitchen, this program about a chef that has a very unique um, behavior, and he gets mad with the other people because the things won't occur or happen the way that he wants. So it's a very interesting program, but I it's not my favorite, but I passed the time watching it, and it's very entertaining. So, guys, you have to do three examples. Just do three examples of yourself using these. Using these, just three examples, and write them in your notebook as I did here. Okay, so let's move to the next part. Okay, guys, now it says in number 4, look at the photo and read the encyclopedia entry and the biography quickly. What is the longitude problem and how did Harrison solve it? So we go to this part. John Harrison, the clockmaker who changed the world. A copy of John Harrison's Marine Timekeeper in the Royal Observatory, Greenwich, London. Guys, what do you know about a biography? A biography is a text or a writing where we can know the story of a person. For example, biography of Barack Obama, we can see all the things, not all the things, but the majority of the things or the more important ones that you should know in order to know a person's life. That's a biography. It's very simple. So we have to check.
Who changed the world. The longitude problem. GPS technology allows you to know exactly where you are on Earth, to within a few yards. It is available to anyone with a smartphone or GPS watch. But at one time, it wasn't this easy. Before the 18th century, sailors could calculate how far north or south they were, their latitude, by measuring the height of the sun in the sky. But they couldn't know their position east or west, their longitude, accurately. Because the Earth rotates once every 24 hours, you had to know the exact time in order to navigate well. Good timekeeping on land was difficult and almost impossible at sea. Time and again, ships got lost or crashed against the rocks, and thousands of sailors died each year. In 1707, 4 ships were lost and 1,500 sailors died when ships from the British Navy ran into rocks after getting lost in fog. Although this was a terrible tragedy, it was a common story in the 18th century because there was no way for ships to navigate accurately. In 1714, a prize of £20,000, about $3.6 million today, was promised to anyone who could solve the longitude problem. A group of experts, the Board of Longitude, was set up to judge proposals, which had to be accurate to within about 50 kilometers, or 31 miles. It included important politicians and scientists who all believed the answer would be found in the stars. Meanwhile, in the north of England, miles from the center of politics and science, the son of a carpenter was learning how to build clocks. By the time he was 20, John Harrison had built his first pendulum clock, and it wasn't long before he was building some of the most accurate clocks in the world. But Harrison knew that pendulums didn't work on a moving ship, and he wanted to win the longitude prize. Over the next 30 years, he invented mechanisms that allowed clocks to keep the correct time, no matter how the sea was moving or how the temperature changed. He presented a series of clocks and watches to the board between 1735 and 1765. On 3 sea voyages, they proved successful, but each time the board ruled that the results could just have been good luck and refused to give him the prize. Harrison, now an old man, decided to speak to the king about the matter. Finally, in 1773, he was given a reward that he should have received a long time before. It wasn't the full prize, but it did mean he was rich for the last 3 years of his life. In their day, Harrison's sea watches were way ahead of their time in terms of engineering and accuracy. It must have been like seeing a driverless car today. They were incredibly expensive to begin with, but very quickly it would have been unthinkable to go to sea without one. Explorers were able to map the world more accurately, and thousands of lives were saved. These days, Harrison is remembered as one of history's greatest inventors.
Okay, guys, we have heard the audio and the text. We have read it. Now we have to answer the exercise number 5. Read that the instruction says, read the article again. Are statements true, false, or not given? So if you want, guys, read again the text, and then we are going to answer true, false, or not given to the sentences that we have here. For example, number 1, before 1700 or 100 or 1700, sailors had no way of knowing where they were if they could not see land. Number 2, clocks on land were more accurate than clocks on ships. Number 3, the disaster in 1707 encouraged the longitude prize to be set up. Number 4, people thought that a clock that was accurate enough to navigate on long sea trips would soon be built. Number 5, Harrison's clock would be considered accurate today. Number 6, Harrison's became angry with the board. Number 7, despite their cost, watches like Harrison's were soon seen as essential equipment for ships. And number 8, Harrison's work is appreciated more over now than it was by the Board of Longitude. So now, guys, you have to put true, false, or not given if you want on the side of your book, and then we will check the correct answers. So pause the video right now. Okay, guys, so we have the answers, the correct answers. If you had them all correct, congratulations. If not, don't worry. This is just an exercise, and this is for you to practice, okay? So in number 1, before 1700, sailors had no way of knowing where they were if they could not see land. This is false. For number 2, clocks on land were more accurate than clocks on ships. That is true. Number 3, the disaster in 1707 encouraged the longitude prize to be set up. Non given. Not given. Number 4, people thought that a clock that was accurate enough to navigate on long sea trips would soon be built. Not given. Number 5, Harrison's clock would be considered accurate today. This is false. Number 6, Harrison became angry with the board. Not given. 7, despite their cost, watches like Harrison's were soon seen as essential equipment for ships. This is true. And number 8, Harrison's work is appreciated more now than it was by the board on longitude. This was not given. The GPS technology is more accurate. The text says the board was looking and the text says the board was looking for accuracy to within about 50 kilometers. It says it, or it mentions it in line 1, 3, 23, and 25. So let's continue. Okay, guys, now we move on to the exercise 6. And the exercise 6, the instruction is find words and phrases in the article which mean the same as these expressions. So we have these expressions from 1 to 6. We have to find phrases in the article that mean the same. So this, you have to write it on your notebook. Okay, guys? Okay, guys, so pause your video and then we'll check the correct answers. These are the correct answers. For 1, many times, time and again. For 2, meanwhile. Number 3, by the time. Number 4, it wasn't long before. Number 5, keep the correct time. Number 6, in their day. These are the correct answers, guys. I hope you had them correct. If not, don't worry, just correct them. And remember, is practice. Okay, guys, to finish, we are going to check the homework. Let me correct here. It's homework like that. So the homework is, it says working in groups. We can't work in groups, so we're gonna make it by ourselves, just one person. Make a list of history's 3 greatest inventors. Find out more about each one and present them to the class. Explain why these people were the greatest. Take a class vote on the greatest of them all. So we cannot do this exercise just like the instruction says, but the homework is to look for one inventor, just one, and we have to find out more about him or her. And you have to write it in your notebook. Remember, guys, then you put your homework in a folder, and that will be homework that we will be checking on the future. So this will be the homework for this activity for these 2 pages. I hope you you I hope you did understand every instructions and every exercise, and I hope also to see you very soon. So take care, guys, and goodbye.